Hey everyone, I'm Krista Seiden, and I'm here with Ahmad Kanani, and we are really excited to walk you through our Data Studio dashboard, which is going to help you migrate from Universal Analytics to GA4. We've designed this in a way so that you can actually look at your Universal Analytics data and your GA4 data side by side in the same dashboard, comparing like metrics, like dimensions that will help you in your migration journey. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ahmad, and he's actually going to walk you through this dashboard tab by tab so you know exactly what's in here and how you can best take advantage of it.
Thank you. Of course. So basically, this is the Data Studio report. As Krista mentioned, this is something that is going to help you monitor your migration from Universal to GA4 by trying to show you side by side the metrics and dimensions and data points that are similar between these two platforms. Of course, it's not completely apples to apples, maybe more closer to apples to oranges, but we've tried to take, similar items, apples to apples, from UA and GA4 and show them side by side in this dashboard. The first time you open the dashboard, you arrive at the home page, which is basically inviting you to choose your analytics account. So we have two drop-down menus. Here we can select from any one of Universal Analytics account that we have access to, or if you are looking at this dashboard, any one of the Universal Analytics views that you have access to, you can select each one of them. Right now, you're using the demo account for Google Merchandise Store for this demo purposes. And on the right, you can select the GA4 property that you're going to connect and compare with this Universal. Of course, if you're migrating, you know already what account you should be comparing with each other. At the top, you can select the date range for which you want to see these numbers side by side. So with Universal Analytics and GA4 for Google Merchandise Store already selected, I will click Compare and arrive at our first page, which is Overview. In this overview page, it's overview. We're just looking at the number of sessions and number of users on both accounts and both this property and this view. So we have sessions from GA4, sessions from UA, and here we are showing the actual amount of discrepancy. If it's more than 50%, we are color coding it by red. If it's between 25 to 50%, it's yellow. Otherwise, it would be like simple black as the discrepancy. We can see if the patterns match up with each other. We can see if there is any unusual spike or drop in traffic or users or session between these accounts. And there is a disclaimer. You want to talk about that, Krista?
Yeah, absolutely. So keep in mind what we're showing you here is the Google Merchandise Store demo account data. And so you do see that these discrepancy numbers, for example, for sessions is in that medium range, and for users is pretty high. We expect to see that difference here for the Google Merchandise Store because the implementations for UA and GA4 are pretty different for this demo store. For your websites, they may be a lot more similar. And so you should expect to see these discrepancies perhaps to be a lot closer if you are keeping your GA4 implementation along the same lines as how you have implemented Universal Analytics. So just keep in mind, this is going to vary site by site, but for the demo data, you will see a lot of discrepancies here. That's not meaning that GA4 is broken or UA is broken. It's because the demo account is implemented pretty differently.
Yeah, exactly. It seems that it has not been the case that they wanted to replicate the exact setup in GA4 and UA for this demo account. Okay, so with this, you can just take a look, see if everything is all right, or if it's not, and ideally know where to look at. And then we try to kind of put it in 4 different buckets. From traffic acquisition, user behavior on site when they arrive at your website, event tracking, which is more prominent in GA4, but you can still compare it with what you have in Universal, and finally monetization, from acquiring a user to actually monetizing them and then arriving at the outcome. Let's take a quick look at traffic acquisition. By the way, the date range and the account that you select, they will stay from page to page. You don't need to set them up every time, but they are there. If you want to, on any page, just try to adjust the date range or connect it to a different account. So here we are again looking at the sessions and users, because these are, traffic metrics and dimensions. And we're looking at Universal and GA. Across this report, every time Universal is always on the left, GA4 is on the right. We can see sessions, user, and discrepancies. Now, the discrepancy here, again, it's color-coded. How much more than UA are we getting these numbers? So how much more total users do we have from UA? Now, if you know that because of some reason you're expecting more, you know about your implementation, the next thing to look at is the actual comparison to the previous period. Because even though there might be a discrepancy, like 10% discrepancy, and you expect it, right? Even though you expect that discrepancy, you know that your trend either should be upward or downward. So you know that the sessions on both accounts should be increased or you should be decreased. So these are some other data points for you to look at. How many more, how much your sessions has been changed from this time period compared to the previous time period, and also for total users. Now, anything below the above default part of this dashboard is trying to help you figure out why something is happening. So at the top, ideally, you can figure out what is happening. In this case, we have like total users a spike around beginning of July, right? And then you might be wondering, okay, why is it happening? Is it something one-off? How we been getting traffic from a specific source, or what is the reason? And only by looking at the breakdown, you can figure out why those aggregated numbers are spiking up or dropping down maybe to zeros. So here we have source medium, because that is something that the first step when we are trying to troubleshoot traffic, we want to know where are they coming from. So we have sessions from GA4 and UA side by side, and the discrepancy, and also users and their discrepancy. And immediately we can see that any kind of big discrepancy that we can see at the top should be somehow related to not set for source medium, on these platforms. And now it's our job to go back and figure out, okay, where is it coming from? Who did implementation? Is it really correct? Should we expect this? And this is the same pattern on all of the pages in this dashboard. The next one is a user behavior, which we will look at the number of page views and non-bounce sessions in Universal Analytics. And in GA4, we look at views, which is kind of a side-by-side, like apple to apples comparison with page views, versus engaged sessions, which is the reason we put non-bounced sessions here, because bounce rates the inverse of engaged sessions. So we try to keep them something similar, so we can see if the pattern is being followed the same across two accounts. At the bottom, we have bounce rates. I'm not sure if you're using it or if you should be using it, or, is it a good thing to even to look at? But it is something that we expect it to be about similar in both accounts if they are implemented in a similar way. So again, you are the only one who knows how the implementation has been going and what should you expect. We have goal completions and conversions, which are, again, completely different between two accounts. And there might be different reasons. Again, we have filters on views in Universal. We don't have quite the same in GA4. So you have to keep all of these in mind when comparing these numbers. A lower number or a high number or a large discrepancy does not necessarily mean something is broken. You have to keep everything into account. Especially here with conversions, something that we've noticed when we were creating this report was that first visits, like someone basically appearing on your website, is marked as a conversion in GA4's demo account for merchandise. So which, I mean, we wanted to exclude that, and we actually put it here. So this is excluding first visit. If we wanted to include that, it was much higher than that, and we can see it down below. Again, if you see anything surprising when checking these two accounts together, your accounts together, and want to dive in a little bit deeper to see what is the source of that problem. So if my page views are higher, which pages are getting more traffic? which pages are getting more views. Is it something that I expect? So the same page title, in this table, we're comparing it between UA and GA4. So homepage, we can see in UA, it's getting like a little bit less than 50K, but in GA4, it's getting more than 70,000 page views. So this is something to maybe go back and look at why is it happening. And the rest of the pages, again, broken down by their page title. We can take a look at all pages and see where the biggest kind of sources of discrepancy are coming through. We can click here and basically sort to see the minimum, maximum of discrepancies that we're looking at. It might take a little bit of time, but yeah, we can see now some pages we have much more, and this is something, if I was in charge of implementation, I would take a look at it quickly to see what is happening. Again, a bounce rate by source medium, is it in line with what we expect, or is it not? Which source medium should we check if there is any discrepancy? There's a large discrepancy. Goal completions by source medium, right? Now, the conversions happen from which source medium? Is it a very big discrepancy? We can see partners affiliate, some goal completions here, just 2 here. Maybe this source medium is not coming into GA4 exactly as it is coming in Universal. This is something to take a look at.
Or perhaps they don't have the same conversions or goals tracked there.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly they might not have the same conversions to be tracked. They might have filters on their views actually changing lowercase and uppercasing, cleaning up the source medium, which they don't have this the same in GA4. So the conversion might be tracking, but under another source medium, it's slightly different name. So this is something to keep in mind.
Could be. One other thing to add there before we move on is it's important to know that goals and conversions are pretty different between UA and GA4. A conversion is essentially an event that's just been toggled on as a conversion, whereas a goal is explicitly set up. And you can set up goals for a number of different things: destinations, events, time, page depth, those kind of things. Conversions can really only be sent up for events. So you can have maybe a conversion event that has been a special event just for destination. But because of that, you'll probably have more goals than you do conversions, or it's really going to depend on the setup. So these things are probably going to be pretty different in your implementations.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is just exploration, seeing numbers side by side, thinking about what can be the source of discrepancy, and is it normal? Is it expected based on the actual implementation and differences in these accounts? Now, again, another kind of breakdown that we might want to take a look at when we are trying to find the reasons of discrepancy between goals and conversions is, okay, which goal, right? Are we defining the same goals in our GA4 accounts that we have in Universal? Has it been the way it was implemented? So here we have a number of goal completions by goal number in Universal, plus the change compared to previous period. Overall, in this report, all the changes are compared to previous period, not previous year. But here it is kind of clearly indicated. And also the event's name and the number of conversions. And here we can see first visit was getting like more than 66,000 conversions in GA4. So it might be something that you might want to either ignore or filter out from your report, so you can take a look at more relevant numbers. Event tracking, the next one, and one that is very close to GA4 setup. How many events are you tracking in your account? How many total events were you tracking in UA? And we can see that there is a very large discrepancy because basically everything in GA4 is events. So it might be better or more relevant to try and look the event count by event's name. Again, if we have the similar event tracked on both properties. So maybe for most of these, we can simply kind of disregard them, ignore them, because we know that in UA, we didn't have that event set up. But for example, enhanced e-commerce quick view, if we can find an enhanced e-commerce quick view also being tracked in GA4, then we might want to expect that the numbers match somehow closely together. Keeping in mind all the differences again. Finally, monetization. This is somewhere that if I'm in charge of, migrating an account from UA to GA4, I actually expect the dollar amounts to line up, quite nicely. So this is not events versus page views or something like that. We expect them to be somehow aligned. And here we can see that unlike the other pages on this report, even demo account is aligning quite nicely. Like transactions, we're seeing a little bit more transactions here, like 30%, but compared to the other pages, it's a little. Total revenue is within like $25,000. But then now, because usually you, your boss, your clients, whoever is looking at the reports, they want the revenue to line up. It is the most important thing to be able to break down and see, okay, what is not tracking on this account that it is tracking on that account? And for revenue is usually the transaction ID, because we are tracking transactions. So transaction ID could be something that we can actually hook into and see, okay, that transaction, what was the revenue tracked in UA and was it tracked? And now, was it tracking GA4 and what was the revenue reported in GA4? So here we can see all the discrepancies about the actual transaction IDs. Has it been tracked in one property but not another? If yes, what was the reported revenue and what was the discrepancy? Right now, if we try to, the first page is all discrepancies, but somewhere maybe page 2, 3, you can hope to have transactions reported, yes, on both properties. So we can see that for most of the transactions, we are actually tracking them fine. They're being tracked on both properties. The revenue reported actually exactly matches. So there has been something going on with those transactions. We need to go back to our implementation and figure out maybe what was the source, what was the device, what was, I don't know, many things that can happen to lead then transaction not tracking in GA4 or UA.
And one thing I did want to call out here is this is some pretty special Data Studio magic that Ahmad built in here. This ability to compare the transaction IDs, color code them like this, pull out if there's an issue or if it's not being tracked or in one or the other. That's not out of the box GA4 or UA technology. That is, that is some very nice magic that Ahmad worked here for us. So I think this is a really, really nice way to compare a lot of this data and find some issues that you might have in e-commerce tracking.
I try to do my best. Yeah, and finally, the revenue and quantity by product, because by transaction is something, and then we want our product revenue tracking and quantity because we know it happens, right? We have sold those products, we ship those products, and we know the quantities. And this is also something that we can hook into and see, okay, Google Pen wide, how many did we sell according to GA4? How many did we sell according to UA? What is the discrepancy, quantity, discrepancy of revenue, and what was the reported revenue? Anything, any quantity discrepancy or revenue discrepancy in the below table, I expect it to be somehow related to those transactions not being tracked in the first table. So this one, I hope you will find this one more useful for your transaction tracking. Something to also note is that this is a kind of living document. As new features appear in Google Analytics 4 or in Data Studio, and over time, we get feedback, we come up with more ideas. We might add more pages to this report. We might change a little bit the functionality and layout of the report, but whatever change we make it for the best, and we try to make it better. So it might be that when you're watching this video, it might have changed a little bit, but yeah, hopefully for the better. And something else, for example, of this in the user behavior, here we are showing percentage of non-engaged sessions. So the inverse 1 minus percentage of engaged sessions in GA4. But even right now, we know that bounce rate is back in GA4. It's back in GA4, it's back in the interface, but right now, Data Studio's connector to GA4 still doesn't extract bounce rate as a metric from GA4. So as soon as it appears in the Data Studio connector, we might actually update this page and actually show bounce rate side by side, because, actually, At least it's called the same. I know there's a lot of
It's not the
differences.
same. It's not the same
The
though,
name
right?
is the same. So
The name is the same. The calculation is different. So these metrics could actually be pretty different between UA and GA4 depending on how you've implemented UA especially. But yeah, Ahmad's right. As things are updated both in the API and that are available in Data Studio or that come into GA4, we will definitely keep this document updated and add to it. So this should be a living, breathing migration dashboard for you to continue to use through next year.
yeah, and use it as your own risk.
Yes, thanks for that little disclaimer. So whatever insights you take away from here, use at your own risk. But
Yeah.
the underlying technology that we've put into this dashboard should be pretty sound. Awesome. So with that, I want to say thank you so much, Ahmad, for your amazing work here. Thanks for sticking with us on this overview. Hopefully this is a helpful dashboard to help you monitor this migration. And we would love any feedback that you have for us. So definitely send us that feedback and we can continue to update this for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.